You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So we have another Cyclospora outbreak that is not linked to lettuce. The parasite that causes explosive diarrhea, watery diarrhea, abdominal cramps, seems to circulate every year. You know, this is the summertime. This is where we eat food and fresh fruit and more salads. But now we have another investigation undergone by the U.S. FDA. This latest outbreak has about 72 cases connected with it. They do not believe it's related to the first main outbreak. There are currently 6 active Cyclospora outbreak investigations. The outbreak that was linked to the iceberg lettuce has now the number caused up to 11,000 confirmed or suspected cases. They do believe it was related to the iceberg lettuce, even though there was a false positive at a lab. Epidemiological data is linking iceberg lettuce that could have been gotten from fast food, including Taco Bell. Even though we don't have exact link, the epidemiological data is suspecting that's where it is. So they stores have been pretty cautious about it. In fact, Taco Bell did make some moves to before there was any confirmation that could be going on. They actually made some moves. Here's a clip on that.
You got to give, both the industry, the fresh produce industry, what they've decided to do of pulling their commodity, as well as the retail, like Taco Bell, pulling it even before they had identified that it was indeed, the iceberg lettuce, right? They weren't sure at the time, so they stopped including any of these several different ingredients that have historically been part of outbreaks. And so you got to give them credit for doing that. And it is complicated because when you look at from farm to fork, you're talking about it's a really quick timeline. Changes a lot of different hands, the processing plants, all the way to repackaging, distribution. That time frame is really short.
Yeah, I have to admit this was pretty. I like how quickly they worked. Although now we're up at like 11,000 cases. This was the speed at which these outbreaks get spread, and by the time somebody acts, you kind of wonder why it takes as long as it does. But in epidemiological, in terms of studying, it's pretty quick. I believe that clip was from a Dr. Jerry Lopez, U of A food safety expert, who was talking to us about the Cyclospora cayetanensis parasite. However, sometimes there's a delay or a pause because of the financial ramifications and the devastation that companies could have. And so I credit Taco Bell for getting on top of it, because once they were alerted that could be an issue, it's worse if they let that go. So I'm glad they did. However, they are, definitely feeling the heat. In fact, from what we're being told, Taco Bell has seen a 30% drop in foot traffic for their typical Fridays that they have seen since January 1 to July 6 of this year. And by July 17th, visits to Taco Bell restaurants dropped more than 30%. Now, what are they doing? Well, they are launching a lettuce-free menu and lettuce-free deals. We're being told by USA Today that Taco Bell has a $1 lettuce-free deal to try to get people to come and get their enchilito. So they're promoting $1 enchilitos, a flour tortilla filled with ground beef, beans, diced onions, cheddar cheese, and red sauce, which, by the way, does sound really, really good. The temporary menu item will not include lettuce. This was posted on social media. Social media is not necessarily saying they're doing this because of the Cyclospora outbreak or the cyclosporiasis, but being that they are having to tell people, look, there's no lettuce in our $1 deal, they're trying to get the foot traffic. They're trying to get the traffic. So now people are trying to push this enchilito. And you know what's interesting? When I grew up, we kept calling Taco Bell Taco Smell. Because people would say they would get diarrhea. I have never gotten sick from Taco Bell. No, I never have. Anything I've ever had at Taco Bell, I've never had an issue. Now, usually, if I do order anything at Taco Bell or Del Taco or any of those, I really like a chicken, cheese, and rice burrito. I really don't usually get vegetables at these places, so maybe that's why I never get sick. If you remember, before COVID, Chipotle was always in the news, with foodborne illness and things. And Chipotle got a bad rap, and all they were doing was offering fresh ingredients. The places that are offering fresh ingredients, so you feel like you're actually getting the tomato, you're getting the lettuce, you're getting the vegetables. It's almost like fast food is trying to get healthy. They're trying to provide healthy options, but then they get spanked up one side and down the other because some foodborne illness then ends up getting attached to that. And so, I really liked the idea of Chipotle. I didn't go much, because I try not to eat out that much. But I was like, good for you for offering fresh ingredients and letting people see the ingredients and let them try to, add some extra. I keep telling people, put some more spinach. Put spinach in your pizza. Put spinach. Add more lettuce. Add more tomato. Put some green peppers. Put stuff in there so you get your vegetables in. Because it's really easy to just do a chicken, cheese, and rice burrito or a steak, cheese, and rice burrito. One of my favorite things to eat. Really easy to do that without any vegetables being in there. But yeah, then how are you getting your vegetables in? Roberto's has a diced cucumber. They're very smart. On their salsa buffet or the little salsa station, you could get slices of cucumber. So people could get some vegetable in it that way. I mean, honestly, you really should be eating more vegetable than just a little bit of lettuce here. And by the way, iceberg lettuce, not the most nutritious vegetable out there. Iceberg lettuce has a lot of water in it. And, but the surface area of the shredded lettuce causes bacteria and parasites to be able to have more of an opportunity to be on there. Taco Bell, I do credit them for jumping on the removing lettuce and I understand they're trying to attract people, but, we do need to eat more vegetables. We do need to eat more fruit. It's just, you're going to have to wash it off. And if you can't wash off fast food, you might want to think about eating your lettuce and tomatoes, at home. 1-877-LA.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's Aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877 Doc Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So President Trump, when he was in Marietta, Georgia, yesterday, was pretty emphatic about how the SAVE Act needs to be passed. And even with the risk of ending the filibuster, because he says the Democrats are going to end the filibuster so they can make Puerto Rico a state, D.C. a state, give themselves 4 more senators, and then forever change, their control. And the SAVE Act is a very, very crucial one because it has a lot of common sense issues like voter ID. You're not going to be randomly mailing out mail-in ballots all over the place. People will, like any other country, apply for one, get one, and then use that. And then that prevents them from voting twice or 3 times or whatever. Nobody can steal your mail-in ballot. With my family now, very interesting, by the way. Can I tell you what's going on with my family? So for the past few years, only 2 of us would get the mail-in ballot. The other 2 wouldn't. Now, the 2 of us that wouldn't get it are getting it, but the other 2 aren't. We're still only getting 2 mail-in ballots for our family of 4. Where are the other 2 going? It's very confusing. And I'm getting these random, ballot sample ballots and random things, but now only for the 2 people that used to not get them, but where's the other ones? I don't understand. And we've been in this house for like 11 years. How are they getting that wrong? Meanwhile, I get 2 jury notices. Remember I had jury duty? And then because I have a mailing address and I have a residential address, then I got jury duty for the other address. And they said, yeah, I got to do both. They'll put one of the numbers away. They'll decommission one of the numbers, and it was the one where I already got cleared. So now the other one has to go through. Okay, I don't mind. That's my civic duty. But I get 2 juror IDs, but our family keeps missing half of our mail-in ballots. So I think, bipartisanly, people do understand that there is a huge need to ensure that Americans feel nobody is cheating when it comes to our elections and that there is integrity. In fact, 13 Democrats backed voter ID. 13 House Democrats joined Republicans yesterday to pass legislation for these new voter identification requirements. The House voted 232 to 198 to pass H.R. 700A8, which is the Stop Insider Trading Act. Republican lawmakers attached to the Voter ID Act to this for them to, which I agree. I don't believe congresspeople who are privy to things going on in the industries to be able to go, ooh, I better put money on, Trump is going to be talking to Eli Lilly. So I bet that stock's going to skyrocket soon. So let's put money on that. I really believe they should not be benefiting financially from that. But Republican lawmakers attached the Voter ID Act to the stock trading legislation, and it passed. The Democrats who voted in favor for it was Kathy Castor from Florida, Henry Cuellar from Texas, Don Davis, North Carolina, Jared Golden from Maine, Vincent Gonzalez from Texas, Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey, Marcy Kaptur from Ohio, Susie Lee from Nevada, Jared Mikowski from Florida, Chris Pappas from New Hampshire, Marie Glusenkamp Perez from Washington, Darren Soto from Florida, and Derek Tran from California. So, many of these lawmakers, from what we understand, are voting the way their constituents want, and also on some common sense policies. So I find that pretty admirable that they would, again, listen to their constituents on what their constituents want. And voter ID is actually pretty popular. And so, not everybody's experienced this, but when I had talked about how my friend's kid, who was 22 at the time, was going to be voting in his first election, or I think he might have been 21, or he had just turned 22. And he went to vote in Texas, and they said, you can't vote. You've already voted. He's like, what are you talking about? When? He said, yeah, you voted in Colorado. I've never been to Colorado. If you've ever gone to a poll and been told that you can't vote because somebody voted for you, you would be furious. Just furious. But meanwhile, that's what's going on. And so I think the average person is going to be looking at things as, I really do think that we need to ensure there's integrity. If anybody doesn't want to vote for the SAVE Act and they don't want voter ID, that's very highly suspect. So now what happens? Well, again, going back to the Senate. All right. Now that there's a defense policy bill to the SAVE Act and there's the trade ban, the Senate has to then decide if they're going to move forward with this. The Republicans do have enough for a simple majority. They don't have enough to break the filibuster. Trump is saying break the filibuster, or just don't go by the filibuster. And his reasoning again is the Democrats are going to do it. Does he have a point? See, I have never been a fan of that because I really think that any legislation, originally I wasn't a fan of that because I really do believe any sort of major legislation should be representative of America and bipartisan. But now we're looking at something that is opening up to fraud. And a concern we have are the polls are showing 80% of Americans want voter ID. So in this case, is it okay for the Republicans to go, look, guys, simple majority? The question, though, I have, because I'm still a little naive on this process, is then can the Democrats, if they get power, and they will get power always goes back and forth. Well, the Democrats, if they get power, go, okay, now let's break the filibuster to nullify the SAVE Act. No voter ID. I mean, can they lickety-split do that? Now, what Trump's argument is that, and what some of the Republicans are saying is that's going to be difficult. For them to actually vote to say no ID starts to look a little bit, they could do it still. But now that starts to look more suspect. So now the onus is on them to try to get through a bill that says, no, we're not going to want transparency, and we're not, he does make a point that if you get this act through, it does protect voter, and it saves Democrats too. It protects the Democrats and the Republicans. If you have room for cheating, that can hurt any political party. But for some reason, the Democrats feel like, no, there's an advantage because of all the millions of Americans that came over the border. And people are voting. I mean, there's been, we keep hearing dogs are voting, and I mean, ridiculous stuff. The argument that Democrats have made is, well, that's only a handful. That's not enough to change any sort of results. So it's not enough. They keep saying there's not illegal immigrants voting. There's not. How do you know? Nobody's showing ID. How do you know? And this idea that election day is not election day anymore. It's a option, and votes could be counted weeks later. The Supreme Court ruled against that, but the reason why they ruled against it is the way the law was written and the wording. The Supreme Court had said, based on the case presented to them, that the states, if the states have legislated that their results can come weeks later, and that they could do, then the federal government cannot supersede that. Where the question is are state elections up to the states? But when it comes to a federal election, does there have to be uniformity? If that question wasn't necessarily raised to them, they aren't going to rule on it. They're going to rule on the question raised where, well, a state wants to do mail-in ballots and let them be postmarked the day of and then counted weeks later. And if that's the case, yeah, the Supreme Court was like, well, based on the laws that the states have, then it gets upheld. We can't interfere with that. But if there's, if the question is, is this something that the Constitution? So I guess the question has to be different for the Supreme Court to actually weigh on it. If not, they take the weenie way out. So I'm starting to think that if we want election integrity for Democrats and Republicans, and it looks like even some Democrats are like, I think we need this. It's got to get through. And as much as I think, there's checks and balances, which I think are very, very important, so we get more bipartisanship. This is very odd that more Democrats aren't on board with voter ID when you need ID to enter Congress, when you need ID to get a job, when you need ID to get your apartment or get a drink or to get on a flight. 1-877 Dr. Ali.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
And we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So how much should we be sleeping? We're being told that Japan's prime minister gets anywhere from 0 to 3 hours of sleep a night. Trump, not sure when he sleeps. He always seems to be up and traveling and back and forth, and I'm not sure how much sleep he gets. Me, I'd probably, on average, you should be getting anywhere from 7 to 9. Because of the cats and dogs and my schedule, I'd probably, on average, 6 to 7. But I'll take a nap if I need to. It's not as good to take naps. It's better to get your regular dose of sleep. But if you do need to rest, if you feel tired, listen to your body and take a nap. It's just if you take a nap and then you can't sleep, and then you can't fall asleep till 1, 2 in the morning, and then you have to get up at 6, that's a problem. That's why we recommend against naps, so you could still get your full, REM cycles and 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But, wow, Fortune magazine is saying Japan's prime minister sleeps 0 to 3 hours a night. Now, mind you, in Japan, they're pushing 4-day work weeks. And the prime minister, Sanae Takaichi, I guess, shared her plans for Sea Day. It's a public holiday where Japanese citizens head to the beach. She said, today's holiday felt like such a true blessing, finally getting a full 5 hours of sleep for the first time in ages. Ever since taking office as prime minister, 0 to 3 hours has been the norm. Now, see, that would make me nervous if you're commander-in-chief. If the Japanese prime minister still has that role in Japan, like our president has in our country, is only getting that much sleep, that would worry me. Sleep deprivation does not make you think that clearly. That's one of the reasons why they had to change how we medical students and residents and doctors used to do things, because we would be having these 36-hour shifts where you'd be on call. So you go into work at 4 or 5 in the morning to do your day. Then at 6 p.m., when everybody else goes home, if you're on call, you have to stay. And then you got to work through the night. And then when the night turns to morning and everybody's coming back in for their day, you don't get to go home because you're there for that work day. So then you don't get to go home until 6 p.m. the next night. There's your 36 hours. So it's 24 plus the 12. And a lot of times it was 37, 38 hours. We would be driving home, falling asleep. You don't learn much. I mean, you're doing in your hands and your boots on the ground, but you're not learning. It was rough. So then they limited it to 24, then they went to 18, and then I think they put it back to 24. So, but it's a lack of sleep. You don't do that well. And, patients don't want somebody who's on their 36th hour doing surgery and working on you. But that's how things were in medicine for the longest time. So for Prime Minister Takaichi, the lack of sleep and working from early morning till late at night, she's proud of. And she wants people to know that she's been working up and she's been busy and she's reading stacks of documents and legislative agenda issues and all that. They say, unlike in the U.S., according to Fortune magazine, the official residence of the Japanese prime minister does not employ domestic staff like housekeepers. So she said the holiday gave her a chance to do household chores, ironing handkerchiefs, undergarments, sewing frayed skirt hems, and loose jacket buttons. If I had to do housework on top of that, we don't have a housekeeper. And I got to tell you, I have a really tough time keeping up with the house stuff. I do. I know I should go and start doing that again. It's just, the reason why we don't have a housekeeper is we have cats and dogs, and our new dog is, she's a love, but she play bites. And I just don't trust her, the French bulldog. I don't trust her if she's going to bite the cleaning lady. And to have them locked up and then barking and driving them crazy, I need to wait until I know that the cats are good. They'll just run under a bed while somebody's vacuuming, whatever. But with the dogs, I just can't do that to anybody right now. But for me to try to keep up with it, it's not easy. And, I live in a house of men, so they're not really very keen on jumping in and doing dishes and stuff. But people are boasting about their grueling schedules. And you take a look at, we have AI, we have computers, we have all that. Why are we still having people work 20-hour days and not get sleep? So one, are people bragging? Oh yeah, I'm not sleeping. So people don't think that they're on vacation, or, like Biden always going back home and always seeming like he's sleeping at the desk, or is it that they don't trust AI, or they don't trust, usually I always thought that what politicians do is have their aides summarize something and say, okay, so here's this, 2,200 page Obamacare bill. Summarize it for me. You can't read the Affordable Health Care Act bill because it alludes to other bills and other documents in the House of Congress. So anybody who says that they have read the whole bill, the whole 2,300s is BSing. Because unless you are alluding to, because when it alludes to these other bills, unless you're reading that section, you're not reading the whole bill. And that's what I can't stand about these bills. They do that on purpose so nobody could officially read them. But you would think that your aide would be like, well, okay, well, summarizing this is what this says. This is what this says. Now, for me, I want somebody to BS and be telling me the wrong thing. And so I would probably want to read the whole thing myself. I'm not obsessive compulsive, but if I'm going to put my name, my John Hancock, on something, I want to make sure that I didn't know it said that. But there's got to be a way to simplify things, because you can't have your leaders not sleeping. And if they're not sleeping, their staff isn't sleeping. But I am still blown away at how Trump could do what he is doing, at his age. He had said, and this is never something that a doctor is going to recommend, but he had said that his doctor told him, and he's 80 years old, to stop taking his daily aspirin. He takes a daily aspirin. He has high cholesterol. He's been taking a daily aspirin. We don't recommend that. In medicine, we don't. Because the GI bleed, because the risk of you bleeding more. But I got to tell you, many people are asking me, like, you got an 80-year-old like Trump who's overweight, has high cholesterol, and he's still living, and he's still not getting a heart attack. Do not do anything. All right. I respect some of the things Trump does. I might not agree with all his whole, all of his things he's doing. But, I do understand he's doing a lot of good work for America. But do not take medical advice from him. Talk to your medical provider. But it is intriguing that some people are looking at how Trump, being 80 years old, with the energy that he has, can do what he's doing. He doesn't drink alcohol. He likes his diet soda. Could be caffeine keeping him going, but still, even with that, you see people crash. But he rarely seems to take a day off. On Sunday, you see him. On Monday, he's all over the place. So I would like to, I mean, yeah, with the same sort of in curiosity I have on what the hell the doctors thought about Biden. I'd like to see what his doctors think, what doctors think about Trump. Because I got to tell you, I don't even have that energy, and I'm younger than Trump, a lot younger than Trump. And to see him be able to do what he's doing at 80 years old is pretty impressive. But the average amount of sleep we recommend is 7 to 9. That's where your body puts things into memory. For those of us who don't have a lot of memories, it's interesting because, I talked to my medical school friends. I'm like, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when this happened? I don't. I hardly put anything into memory. I mean, the medicine you do because of repetition, but I don't remember things people said or did because I hardly slept. If you're having memory issues, you got to look at getting more sleep. If you're having bone and joint issues, you might need to get more sleep. If your metabolism is changing and you're gaining weight, you might need to have more sleep. You know, I thought that I was going to lose weight being up for 36 hours because you're not sleeping no, I ended up gaining weight. And then when my call schedule lightened and I was able to get more sleep, I lost weight. It was fascinating how that happened because you do burn energy when you sleep, but you metabolize better. I think what happens is your metabolism slows when you're up and running around because your body kind of feels like, I mean, not when you're exercising, but your metabolism might think, wait a second, this person's not storing energy. So we got to do what we can and slow down. So I really do believe getting good sleep helps you also with your diet. I think it helps you with your bowels. It helps you with so much, not to mention your mental health. So, when I don't know much about the Japanese prime minister, but I would not emulate any sort of lack of sleep. 1-877 Dr. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, small business owners are an interesting group, and they're struggling, and we're really, really worried that the average small business owner is not going to be as proliferative and as a robust a group as it used to be. The Walmarts, the Lowe's, the corporations are really taking on a lot of the burdens that small business owners have had to deal with, and many of them can't either compete with them because of cost or they don't have the ability because of staffing. Doctors, to see doctors who own their own practice and are running their own clinic, you're starting to see fewer and fewer of them. And in addition to cost that you hear a lot about in the news, but one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about because they're afraid and they're embarrassed to talk about, but I hear about it, is fear of staff. Doctors are very, very open talking about it. They're like, I love medicine, but no, I can't handle the staff. Okay, now, I've been staff. I've been an employee. I've been a very, very good employee. But as an employer, I got to tell you, the two biggest stressors in running the business was insurance not paying and staff. Patients' complaints, not the biggest deal, because if the patient was complaining because the staff didn't call him back, staff didn't, but when the staff does their job, it's amazing. You're only as good as your staff in medicine. But if you have bad staff, it's really hard to do a good job. You order a mammogram, you did the right job ordering a mammogram, and you tell the staff, make sure you log it, that we got it back. If we didn't get it back, check in with the patient, check in with the radiology company. And if we did get it, make sure the patient gets the results or comes in. When somebody says, yeah, they're doing that and they're not, you could have an abnormal mammogram and somebody die of cancer before somebody calls them. So it's, for us doctors, you can't be wrong on any patient. You can't miss one lab test. And so it's very, very difficult. And so when people say, Dr. Dahlia, should I, become a nurse, go into the medical field? If you really want to help people, yes. But it's not for the weak, and it's not an easy job. And doctors are not obsessive compulsive, but the nature of the beast is you cannot screw around and be lazy on any patient because a bad outcome could happen. So you got to be right all the time. An assembly line, somebody might say, all right, well, this one got through. Oh, well, we'll go on. No. Even with an assembly line, there has to be, there has to be that understanding that one thing that goes wrong could hurt somebody. So it's difficult. And another conversation that's going on right now with people is they're losing their job from the corporations. Now the corporations can pay for AI models, et cetera. So now you have a bunch of people looking at, well, why don't I go and do a small business? If working for corporations is going to end up in me getting fired, why don't I look at running a small business? But I hear people talk and they say, I got to do something where there's no staff. Where did staff get this reputation? Well, a big concern is the call-outs. When you do a business, your business can only run, if that's the type of business, with your staff. And when your staff doesn't come in, or they come in drunk, or they come in, it's interesting. I had a business in the salon industry. We ran a hair salon, a couple hair salons. And I heard from other salon owners that when you were able to open back up after the lockdown, now in California, I think the salons were locked down for, close to a year or two. But in Nevada, you were able to open up, I think early May, after the lockdown. I heard from salon owners that their stylists were so mad that they had to come back to work that they called the cosmetology board and tried to say that there were infractions just so their owner could be closed down. Now that frightens people. That frightens employers. Now, I had honest conversations with my staff because they wanted to get the extra $600 a week. And I'm like, look, I can't do fraud. They're like, well, you have to only give me a low amount of hours so I also get the $600 check. And I'm like, look, I can't do fraud. I'm supposed to hire you guys back because the PPE money full time. I'll let you decide if you want to quit or whatever. But I'm not gonna manipulate the system because then I'm in trouble. But yes, I've had staff from in my medical clinic steal things from the stat kit, order supplies and steal them and take them home. Both bill pap smears on men to Medicare, and they were not transgender men, they were biological. I have seen, and I had wonderful staff. I had amazing staff. But it's the one person, all it takes is one that could cause massive devastation. Now, I didn't close my office because of that. I closed my office because of Obamacare, and I got offered to teach. But for those of you who are really, really good people and really good employees, and you're like, what is wrong with these employers? It's like they think I'm going to cheat. They think I'm going to call out. They think I'm going to steal. It's because of the idiots before you that did that. You know, I would think that any nurse that is going into this field would not want to steal anything out of the crash kit. I had a nurse, as you guys have heard about this, pretend to be me, steal the flu shots, but she didn't steal enough syringes. And then she goes and sells flu shots pretending to be me in a part of town. Now, I didn't know about this until the police called me and said they picked her up and she did this. And I'm like, I don't think she took enough syringes. And they go, why are you upset that she didn't steal enough syringes? I go, because she might have then reused syringes. If she's giving shots and she's running out of syringes and she's obviously unethical, that freaked me out. That freaked me out more than her stealing and pretending to be me. I was like, she didn't take enough syringes, meaning she possibly reused needles. Frightening. And it was somebody I hired. And I checked references. And I remember exactly two of my worst employees, how I would call and say, yes, I'm doing a reference check on so-and-so. Both people who answered the phone said, hold on. They came back on the phone and said, hire her. She's amazing. And I go, well, can I ask you some more questions? I don't have time. Just, you have my full support. Hire her. Okay. So I did. I was naive. I realized the reason why is when somebody's on unemployment, you could fire somebody. They could still be on unemployment and they're sucking your unemployment out. Then they're going to want that person rehired because the day they're rehired, they're not going into the unemployment. So every time I would ask for a reference on these crappy staff people, I was getting glowing reviews. And so prospective employers are like, well, wait a second, if I can't trust the reference, I can't trust the staff person, and it's not everybody. Usually there's really good staff people. But if you can't run a business if you have somebody that you can't trust. Now, one thing that I'm noticing is happening in the medical field and is happening in other fields is the outsourcing. Where if you have staff you don't feel you could trust or can't show up or don't come in, you can outsource that duty. And now that company has money in the game. And if that company wants to have a reputation that they could cover that duty, they'll handle the staffing drama. They'll handle the not getting the job done. And so I'm noticing what a lot of businesses are doing is outsourcing, where then they will, so if somebody's coming to work drunk, that's on that company that outsourced or placed that person. And that takes some of the pressure off of you. So that's definitely something to look at. There's a lot of interviewing skills and interviewing techniques and things like that, which we could always talk about. But for those of you looking for a job, that's kind of one of the things that employers are going through. And for you employers going, I don't know what to do about the staff, this is really getting, traumatizing. Find the good ones and treat the good ones well. Don't underpay them because you're going to need them. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.